Namaste everybody, and welcome to part 5 of how to awaken your mind. So far we've looked at setting ourselves boundaries so we keep on this path. Then we looked at ways that we can make our whole day a practice, so all day we're working on awakening our mind. Starting the day with meditation, being mindful throughout the day, and then finishing the day with a reflection practice. So in part 5 I want to look at things that stop our mind from becoming awakened. So one of the things that stops our mind from waking up is our desires, our clinging desires. So here we have to look at two different sets of desires really. There's desires that are wholesome and skillful and helpful desires. I desire to help people. I desire to improve my life. I desire to awaken my mind. I desire to be the best possible person I can be. So this type of desire is a wholesome desire. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about our desires of, I want the next iPhone or the next OnePlus 9 Pro phone. These are desires we cling to. They will stop us from opening up and awakening our mind. The reason for that is that because we can't think of anything else. When we've got it into our mind that now I want to have this latest phone, I want to have a new car, or I want to buy these new clothes. Once we get this into our mind, it is very difficult for us to think of something else. We might be distracted for a while and then our mind goes back, oh, I like this. Maybe we're walking down the road and we see an advertisement for it, or we see it in a shop window and then we think, oh, you know, I want this, and our whole of our mind is consumed by these desires. It is that desire that is going to stop your mind from awakening, because you're closing your mind, because you can't think of anything else. And when we get these types of desires, we cling to them. So desires themselves are not a major issue, it's the clinging, it's the holding on, the grasping to these desires. That's what causes the problems here. So how do we get around that? I mean, how do we work on, trying to tame our desires? One way of doing it is to understand impermanence. Everything is impermanent. So today your mind is consumed by getting the latest car and brand new car. You can't think of anything else. You need to pay the electricity bill, but instead of that, you're putting the money towards your new car. Everything, all your resources and all your mind and everything else, all your thought process is going now, I want to buy this car, I want to buy this car. So it is that point there that we start to have problems with our mind, because we can't focus on anything else. But if we start to understand that everything is impermanent, so that one thing that is taking all your brain power, that one thing that is consuming the whole of your day, that one thing that you desire is not permanent. It won't last, it won't be here for a length of time. When we start to see things as impermanent, then we start to understand that, okay, I need this, so I need it, so if I can afford it, then I will get it. But when I get it, I understand that it's not going to last. It won't be here forever. But while it's here, then I'll enjoy it, knowing full well that it won't be there forever. If we see things like that, if we see all of our possessions, if we see ourselves like that, if we see our family and friends like that, then we're not going to get these clinging desires. We're going to see that everything is like a flowing river, nothing is permanent, nothing is here forever. So while it's here, let's enjoy. But desires are going to start dragging you down. Another part of this is attachment, because not only are desires going to drag us down, our attachments are also going to start to drag us down. When we desire something and we end up getting that one thing, the next thing that happens is now we attach ourselves to it. So I've gone through all this mental torment and torture of trying to buy this one thing. Now I've got it. Now I'm holding on to it. Now it's mine. And nobody else owns this and it's for me. And you get attached to it. Again, that clinging attachment is going to bring you suffering. It's going to close your mind. It's going to take and consume all of your brain power. So then there's no room here then to awaken the mind. By having these clinging desires, by getting attached to things, we're actually closing up our mind. Attachment is probably one of the worst things that brings us suffering. And we all do it. We all like people and we grow attached to those people, and then we believe that they're ours, and then we start to try and control them and mold them, and when they go, then it causes us such heartache and pain. And while we're going through all this suffering, and all this suffering we are causing ourselves, nobody else is causing the suffering for us there. We are causing this suffering by having clinging desires and by having these attachment. Once we've managed to get our desire, now we're attaching to it. We can even get attached to the desire if we can't afford it, and it's going to be a few months or so before we can afford to buy it. We get attached to that desire as well. All of this is going to cause you psychological and emotional suffering. That closes your mind. Remember, what we're trying to do here is awaken the mind. Wake it up. What you're doing there is closing it. So we have to understand with desires what is need and what is greed. Again, here we have to be really careful, because our minds are so tricky that they will think that this is a need. I really need this. And even if in the back of your mind you know you don't really need it, you want it, but you don't really need it, your mind will trick you into thinking, yeah, you do, you need it. So then you think, oh, if I need it, then definitely I'm going to buy it. So we have to look at our minds the whole time. When we're on the path to awakening, we have to be fully aware of where our attention is going, where we're placing our awareness. Because if we don't, then we drift off, and then our awareness goes off and it takes us into places where we don't want to be, like desires, like attachment. So when we're on that path of awakening the mind, we really have to be careful that we're not clinging to these types of desires, we're not grasping at things, and we're not getting attached to things. You see, we get attached to all different types of things. We get attached to ourselves, and we get attached to this image that we build of ourselves. We build up this whole great image of, I went to this school and I was educated to this level and I live in this area and I drive this car and I work here, and all of these things, we put them all together and we think that makes us who we are. It makes us our identity. But actually, it doesn't. You know, all those things are forever changing, forever moving. And when we try to get attached and hold on to these things and they change, which they will, then of course that's when the emotional and psychological suffering comes in. When that comes in, then there is no option, there is no chance of our mind awakening. So have a look. I want you to think of all the things that you desire now and be honest with yourself. Can you let those desires go? And if you let them go, will it open up your mind? We're going to do a little meditation practice now where I want you to think about these points. So we're going to look at all the desires that we have at the moment. And it doesn't have to be a desire about buying things. It could be a desire that you want to live in a certain area, or anything. But it has to be one of the clinging desires, not a desire to do something good. So I want you to look at how many desires you're actually holding on to at the moment. And then how much suffering it's causing you because your mind is consumed by these desires. Then we'll have a look at attachment and the things that we have bought, and we'll just stick to possessions here. So the things that we have bought recently and we've got attached to, and have a look at how much suffering that is bringing on you. Again, you've got to be honest when we're doing this practice. Because if you're not going to be honest with yourself, yeah, I'm not attached to this, and no. I mean, people have said to me in the past that, oh, you know what, I don't have any attachments. And I just think, really? Is that true? Think about it. We all have attachments to things. It might not be attachment to possessions or to people, but it could be to yourself. And the fear of death is because you're attached to this whole image of yourself. So that's an attachment. So don't think that, you don't have attachment. I'm sure we all have many, many ones that we can work on. Okay, so I want you to just sit nice and comfortable now and lightly close your eyes. And let's look at all the things that you desire at the moment, all the things that you think, I want to buy this and I want to buy that, and when I've got a bit of money I'm going to buy that. So just think of all these things that are your clinging desires. Just bring them into the front of your mind a moment. If you have no desires, then well done. You can just sit here and relax. But I'm sure we all have some desires. So now I want you to think about all the time that these desires are consuming your thought process, that are disturbing your mind. And by doing that, they're causing you suffering. They're stopping you from awakening your mind. So just think about that point for a moment. How much time is consumed in wanting this desire? Now I want you to think of only possessions here. We're not going to look at people today. Just look at possessions. What possessions are you attached to? Things that you've actually bought. What are your possessions that you're attached to? And remember, be honest with yourself here. . And now just think of these things that you're attached to. If you lost those things, or if somebody stole those things, how much suffering would that cause you? Just think about that a moment. Okay, so now just slowly start to open your eyes. So it's frightening, isn't it? I mean, the amount of suffering that we cause ourselves by having these desires or by getting attached to things. And all of that is in your hands. All of that you can control yourself. Nobody else. We can't look around and blame other people. It's all totally in your hands. So if you are not being able to awaken your mind, then we can't go looking outside and blaming them or blaming them. We can't blame anybody. We have to look at ourselves and about why is my mind not awakening? So look at your desires and just understand that if you need something, and you really need something and you can afford it, then it's fine, isn't it? But then once you've bought it, don't get attached to it. Just understand that it's impermanent. Your desires are impermanent. You spend so much time and effort wanting this new object, and then as soon as you buy it, something else will come out that's bigger and better and faster, and now you want that. Our minds are like that. They are jumping all over the place. We can't seem to control these desires, and that's the point here. You will never be able to control those desires. You know, your desires, another translation of the Pali word for desire is thirst. And that's exactly what it is. It's like a thirst. We have this thirst and we can't quench it. And to try and quench it, we drink salt water. And then it just makes it even worse. We become even more thirsty. That's what we're doing here with these desires. You will never ever come to the end of your desires by keep buying them. I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I want to buy that. You know, we will never ever get to the end where we think, okay, now I've bought enough. But when you don't stop all these desires, you will never find contentment. And if you don't find contentment, there is no way that you're going to awaken your mind. So by controlling our desires, letting these things, I don't need this. It's nice, and how wonderful it would be and how great it would be for me to take it and show people. But, you know, we don't need it, and it's just going to cause us lots and lots of problems. So you're never going to quench that thirst of desire, so don't try. And also, with your attachments, whatever you're getting attached to, people or objects or yourself, again, that is just going to bring you suffering, because nothing is permanent. Nothing, not only is nothing permanent, nothing stays the same moment to moment. Everything is breaking down. So we can see, well, you know, look at your face. Look at your face 5 years, 10 years ago, and you can see, okay, there's impermanence for you. But some impermanence is very subtle. If you're like a table, you've got this table, and when you went to bed last night it looked like this, and when you got up in the morning you think, oh, it looks exactly the same. But it's breaking down. Even if it's only on a subtle level, it is breaking down. Everything is breaking down. Everything is changing. Things come together, they last for a short period of time, and then they disappear, or they die, or they break. Nothing is staying the same. It's all moving. You know, we go and look at a river and we think, oh, that's a wonderful river. And then we go away and the next day we come back and we think it's the same river. But how can it be? All that water has flown and gone. So by holding on to things, getting attached to things, you are going to bring yourself a huge amount of pain, a huge amount of suffering. So see things as ever-changing, see things as impermanent. Because if we can see things like that, then we know that there's no point in holding on. It's like trying to hold on to air. We just can't do it. So don't get attached to all these things. Enjoy them. If you've got something, if you've got somebody, then enjoy it while it's there. But leave it in your back of your mind that you know it's not going to last. So one day this won't be here. Tell yourself it won't be here one day. But now it is here. So let me enjoy it. I'm going to fully enjoy it. You see, when we understand impermanence, when we stop being attached to things, that is the point then we really start living our life. By holding on tightly to things, we're not living our lives. And don't get love and attachment mixed up. Because people think that, you know, if I don't get attached to these people, it means I don't love them. It's completely untrue. And don't think that the opposite of attachment is detachment. It isn't. I'm not talking about getting detached from things. Because to be detached from things is like you're pulling, no, I'm pulling away. I'm not talking about pulling away from things. I'm talking about don't hold on to things. So the opposite of this attachment that I'm talking about isn't detachment, it's love. True love is that. Not holding on to things, not holding on to people, not trying to control things. Because all of that is going to stop your mind from awakening. So when it's attachment, you think, oh, I'm attached to this person. You may call it love, but it's attachment. You have attachment for this person. That's not anything to do with them. That's everything to do with you. When you really love, it's everything to do with them and not to do with you. It's the same as, I mean, I've told this story before, but it's a good way of explaining it, that you're out walking and you see this beautiful, beautiful flower and you smell it, it's so fragrant and lovely. And you just leave it there and you walk off and let other people appreciate it. That's love. If you smell it and it's beautiful and love it and you break it and you take it home and you put it in a vase on your table, that's attachment. There is a huge difference. That attachment is all about you taking the flower. The love is leaving it for other people. So don't think that if I'm not attached to something, it means I don't love them. You love. We do love. It means it's proper love. It's true love. It's love that isn't about control. It's love that isn't about me. Attachment is all about you. It isn't about the love of the other person. So think about these points, because all of these things, the desires and our attachments, are really going to stop your mind from awakening. They're going to close up your mind. So there's a lot there for you to think about, and particularly about the things that you're desiring at the moment. Just really be honest with yourself and think, do I need them? And also then look at all the things that you're attached to. And you know, impermanence, we know impermanence, yeah? Intellectually, we know impermanence. We need to make impermanence part of our life so we don't get attached. And just try to get it into your head that the opposite of attachment is love. It isn't detachment. So many people say to me, oh, I find it so hard to detach. Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible word. I mean, why would you want to detach? It's like, you know, you're together and you detach from something. I mean, it's just not, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about detaching from our possessions or our loved ones or our life or anything. we're talking the opposite between attachment and love. So give all these points some thought. And then in the next part 6, I'll be talking about 2 more things that really stop our mind from awakening. And that is anger and hatred and our aversion. Those 2 things are so strong that they actually stop our mind from awakening. So thank you so much for joining me in this session. I look forward to seeing you again in the next session. Thank you and namaste.